Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we're joining you with the always rare in-person developer interview.
Doesn't happen that often.
No, but this one's special. We're in-state in Worcester, Mass, visiting the Petricore office with Ryan and Oliver here. So before we get right into it, before we dive into Mythic Realms and what you all do here, do you want to tell our listeners, who you are and your roles for Petricore?
Yeah. First off, thanks for coming to visit us here in Worcester. I'm Ryan. I'm CEO at Petricore.
Hi, I'm Oliver Awat. I'm the lead designer at Petricore.
So how many people actually worked on the game?
Oh boy. Over the course of development, we worked with a good bit of external partners, even from like way back when we were first pitching it. We worked with a great concept artist down in Brazil, actually, a studio, Big Green Pillow. And we really liked them because they actually had a similar origin story to us too. But I'd say overall, maybe the team was somewhere between 10 to 15 people overall. Again, some people were like small individual contributors that like just did a little bit of work on it. But the core team itself was about 5 people.
Okay. Wow.
Impressive stuff.
Yeah, and we actually like for some reason in VR, like the lower number studios.
That under 10.
Yeah. They seem to be able to like really crush it with their content.
20 is kind of the
big
cap.
ones
Yeah.
that you would think would come out of the gate a little stronger, but they can't necessarily do that. So no, that's a good number.
And, you look at a game like Mythic Realms, when we checked it out a year ago, mixed reality was being pushed. I mean, it was definitely a thing, but you were definitely ahead of the curve. You see the way the market is, what's pushed on the MetaQuest store, and it's like, wow, Mythic Realms, a game that takes you mixed reality and virtual reality. I mean, that's not an idea you came up with overnight. So you had the idea of this. It must have been before, it was hot before it was cool. Yeah. So how long has Mythic Realms been in development, and how'd you even get the idea of like, let's do this mixed reality to VR interchanging experience?
Yeah, I think the original idea, so we had some experience in mobile AR, and the original idea was more of like a Pokemon Go-esque style game where it's an RPG that you kind of go out, you do quests out in the real world. But that was always kind of just like more in the ideation phase. And then I think Meta opened up the presence platform where you could start to see, you had access to the pass-through, and then you could start to see what was a room or a semblance of a room back then. And then we made a prototype of it was just a bear, and you had a sword, and then you hit that bear a bunch of times. But that was it's been quite a bit. Probably like the idea has been in our heads for 5 years now. But we didn't really start working on it until 2.5 years ago. So
was that the black and white Quest 2 days with pass through when you guys first started?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a Quest Pro at the time. It was sort of, we knew the black and white was kind of a hard sell for players, and eventually we were kind of trusting that there'd be more. But yeah, we had the Quest Pro, which was color, and that was where the very first prototype came to be.
And Oliver was like hinting, like we're kind of, I think, interesting as a studio where we came into the VR headset space more from mobile AR. Like we started more on the there was like Vuforia and early AR tools on mobile devices. And so we'd done a good bit with like Niantic's Lightship product. And we had actually worked, Oliver had been a part of this. We one of our client projects was actually with the Palo Alto Research Center out of Xerox on augmented reality, like training, and we did some cool work with them. But we got like a glimpse of what AR could be on mobile devices, and it gave us a good insight into like what was coming in the headsets, but not quite there yet. So that was like, when we were a little ahead of the curve, it was like, oh, we know phones can do all this stuff, and the headsets are basically phones. And so in a matter of time, like Meta should be able to like build out the tools that'll let us do this.
To be willing to take that gamble, though, to go like, we know it should be.
Yeah.
So let's start investing in it and making it so when that's ballsy. I mean, from a business, you're banking on the future being how you see it based on the current technology that you're comfortable with.
And in this case was right as well too.
Oh, yeah.
We had some like we were trying, we do like this article sharing every 2 weeks. So we were trying to keep an eye where we're like, everybody in the studio will bring like news of like what's happening in the space and we'll discuss it. So we saw like some of the leaks and rumors of what was happening, and we'd go to events and like ask people like, what are you hearing, you know, and try to like get some insight into what was happening. So we had some idea of like, we weren't like totally blindly like, let's do this. Like there was some hope of like, oh, like there's definitely going to be like potential to get these projects supported. But yeah, there was definitely like a risk of like, this could not pan out. And I remember like when we started also, it was like the Vision Pro was completely unknown. Like it was like whether or not that would even launch and whether it was even real. And so like it was still definitely like earlier times when we started it. Yeah.
Well, now you see things like Orion rumored, again, how popular mixed reality is on the Quest 3.
No, and making it better for developers with access to the cameras now too.
Right? Then there's things like Snap Spectacles. So I think you hedged your bets in the right spot. I think, you know, you're laying down the early foundation of learning how to build these AR and mixed reality experiences. And the reality is, I think it's only going to get even more popular. So,
and go figure, Meta has a bigger push on the MR side than it seems like on just saying like VR in general.
It's all called MR to them now.
Well,
if anything, you know, it seems like that's the big effort there. It's definitely on mixed reality. And in case any of our listeners haven't played Mythic Realms yet, do you want to tell them, you know, exactly what it is? You know, I've teased a little bit. You go VR to mixed reality, but
you were the first to do that too, correct? For standalone.
I don't know.
I know sometimes you're hesitant to say first, but definitely one of the first.
Definitely one of
the first.
I don't say that we're luminaries or visionaries.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Because I when we tried it a year ago, I remember thinking,
like, wow, this is unique. This isn't
like
something I've seen executed.
I don't think anyone's done this.
But with,
I'll say standalone.
There's been so many small apps. I get the hesitancy to say first, but definitely one of the first. It's a creative aspect. But yeah, do you want to tell them, you know, exactly what Mythic Realms is?
Yeah, so Mythic Realms is a fantasy RPG roguelite where it transforms your room into an adventure. You fight dragons, you collect resources, and then the stuff that you get from the real world you take back into sort of the virtual world, the kingdom. Use those resources to build it up, and sort of the back and forth. You make your kingdom better. You get better gear. You can go further in expeditions, and then it's sort of like the two loops that build into each other.
I mean, I've had a blast with it so far. You're incentivized to go in and build up your kingdom. You know, you see their happiness bar. You can dump fish in there to make them happier, increase the population. But then there's also like your blacksmith to unlock, your bridge, which I just unlocked on my last session, but I have to do one more expedition and then it'll be finished being built. But there's so much fun in that VR area. But then you mentioned the roguelite aspect. We're suckers at this point for roguelite. Yeah. When I first
bought it for years,
I was like, I don't like that idea of if you die, you start again or you lose stuff. I was like, I just want to
get
get
at my Steam and my Xbox list, and I'm like, apparently I'm a closet roguelite lover.
They happen to take up my most hours.
Yep.
But this does it nice in that, like, it's not like you start the whole game over. If you lose, you just lose what's on your run in that one. And you guys are so smart with how you do it because you give the offer halfway through the run or like a quarter through the run. You want to leave and take your rewards and keep it and not lose everything. Or you can be like me. It's going to be like, I need to make it all the way to the boss. Yeah. Always risk it.
I've got 1 health. That's enough.
Oh, dude, I made it all the way to the boss last night. And I had gotten this giant axe from one of the random encounters.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to make it back with this axe. Like, it is so epic. And as long as I keep it, I know I can eventually beat this boss. And then right before the boss, it's like, do you want to leave or do you want to face the boss? And I'm like, well, I'm hopping off for the night. I guess if I lost, like, it's not the worst case. Like, I'll just play again, you know? So I go to fight that boss. I won with 2 health left.
Oh, nice.
That dragon was a mofo. That dragon was not messing around. Sending out his companions after me too. I was like, this is messed up. But it's smart. It's like, it's not that complete like negative reset feeling when you lose in a roguelite and now you're completely over.
And I've become really, there's so many games I say, well, yeah, you call it a roguelite, but it doesn't feel like it.
It is kind of one of those in that
it falls in that category.
The worst case, you go back, you know, and now it's hop back in, but you still have your village how it was left off before. So it's like everything great about a roguelite, even with a little bit of the tempt you to leave halfway through a run to keep your stuff. But you're not going to progress in the story unless you complete the run. So it's like a real, you know, dangle the meat in front of your face. But you win, you get to improve your village. You lose, you just get another shot. But it's not this huge negative. Besides losing all the equipment that you have on you, which is a
lot better
than completely restarting a whole save and stuff like that. So it was smart. It took everything great about a roguelite and also like kept it much more gameable for a casual person for sure. So great concept for a game. I mean, how does I was going to say, how does an idea of Mythic Realms itself even come? I know you talked about, you know, hearing the whispers of mixed reality and AR with meta, but the actual idea for a fantasy roguelite that you're going back and forth, you know, how does that idea even come to your mind?
I played a lot of RuneScape as a kid. I think this was always sort of a childhood fantasy of having some kind of adventure that you take part in your room. I feel like all of us have always kind of imagined sort of like a world beyond the world that we have. And I'm also kind of a sucker for anime, specifically isekai anime. So it's sorry for people that don't know, isekai it means another world. It's sort of a genre of anime where the main character can kind of go into a different fantastical world and experience sort of like a life that they never had. But yeah, it's sort of those two culminating together to make I guess what Mythic Realms eventually became.
Dude, like I said, it's a unique concept. There's well actually
been very positive from what I've seen on socials, and even from some people who I was
more critical.
I was
games.
shocked.
Yeah.
Really. I was like, wow, it made me feel good though, because I'm like, you guys are really doing something good. When I've seen the turnover of like you said, people might be a little more critical sometimes, who are like, this is a really good experience.
We've been a little shocked too, honestly. Like, you know, it's like we were really happy with. We were originally going to launch in December, and we decided to delay a few months because we were seeing from some of the testing, and we did some mock reviews, and it just wasn't where we wanted it to be. So we took a few months to delay and continue working on the game. And so we did all that again before we were going to launch, where we were like, all right, let's see like how we've improved. And it was better, like across the board. Like everyone was like, you all like did a lot of improvements. Like, and like, it was something where when we launched, we were still a little like, all right, like we've definitely gotten the game to a better place, closer to where we wanted to be, but we still really like weren't quite sure what the reception would be. So when, we got a 4 out of 5 from Upload. We got a really great write-up from Vice that they like highly recommended the game, and like it's been a steady trickle of like more good press, which we've been really like, it's been amazing to see that. It's like, because we spent so long like working on stuff like this to have that come back and people enjoy playing the game. We've definitely gotten a lot of like, I didn't think that I would like this, and I have. And I think like we've been talking about that because we're like, well, that's good, but also like, why? And so like, I think like mixed reality is really interesting, like because it's so early right now, and it was a lot of, like you mentioned, there's the progression, there's the kingdom, like there's a lot of functionality in the game, and I think people like there's some really great mixed reality games that are like shorter experiences, and it was like by nature of just like. You couldn't do much with it yet. So I think people got used to like more like tech demos and like smaller games. And so I think that's been part of it, is when people come in, they're like, oh, wow, like there's systems and mechanics and persistence and a lot to this game that like you can play for hours. And like that was really what like we wanted this to be, was like a big experience for players. So we've been super thrilled with like the response we've had from
No,
players.
huge kudos on that.
Well-
It's good to see. I know when we tried it, we both agreed with each other. We were like, they have something.
Mhm.
And I was like, I hope it's not coming out tomorrow. That was my fear. Is like, I had no idea how long the development was going to be. So when we saw it was like coming out for release, it was nice to see the
massive improvement.
yeah.
Stuff.
Oh yeah. It was a good experience when we tried it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. But yeah, it seems like people play it. It's more than what your brain's thinking it is.
Mhm.
You go to fish, you successfully fish, and it goes, your fishing level up. And you go, there's stats like that. You go in the stats, there's a whole list of stats of all the skills that you're going to be doing in the game.
It's almost like it
damn.
preys on every addictive quality that people like in the game.
Well, no, it's got that RPG element. It's
Yeah.
got that roguelite element. It's got that a little bit of town building element. Of course, you can't like select where things go, but it's like that upgrading your village feel. I even saw a training ground that said coming soon, which instantly as a user, you go, oh shit, there's more updates
being
are going to
worked on.
come.
Yep.
So, I mean,
You're
I guess,
getting your money's worth and then some for sure.
I guess I'll ask on that, with the training ground saying, coming soon, there's more concept or there's more stuff coming to Mythic Realms.
Yep.
Anything you guys are able to say now or just what's in the game
No.
with the training grounds?
We have plan. So the training grounds is sort of like a late game / post game edition. And it's gonna have high level equipment and things to do that kind of right now my biggest beef with the game is sort of there's not that much as we wanted to do in the kingdom. So we really want to bolster sort of the stuff that you can do while you're there. And one of the original ideas was sort of like Animal Crossing style daily events where something will happen that you can do. I think one of them is like sort of like a hide and seek with a sentient wall shadow. That's gonna be in the first patch that we do, which will be exciting. And then on the expedition side, as much as we are a roguelite, I want to still make more of an experience that like, oh yeah, this is the run. This is the run where I can just do everything, where you feel really OP. And we have sort of we have the upgrades where you kind of like raise the sword. I want sort of like the dark side of that. We're calling them enchantments. It's not the final terminology, but where you sort of have like this if there's the good, there's the kind of cursed evil thing. That you can take, you can make your weapon sort of like homing shots for arrows, or like your laser can bounce around, stuff like that kind of like help augment the roguelike experience to make it feel like, oh, this is the run where I feel like I can really do whatever I want to do.
It's funny how roguelites have that feeling. You get that one run and you're like, I'm unstoppable.
I love the transparency, but more you can see the genuine excitement about this game when you talk about it. It's like it's there. It's like even if you didn't hear the words, you were like, something really good is going on there. So the amount of thought you're putting into it for the player, or even admitting like there was more we wish we could have had, and we do want to have, but you're doing it. So it's from a consumer standpoint to know that there's a lot more coming is freaking huge.
I've also never heard a passionate developer say, I'm content with the game. Like it got everything I wanted to get into it. And like you hear that when you're like, there's more I wanted to get in there with the village. And like that's not to say anything negative about the state of the game.
No.
Currently, like there's a bunch to do, but you can tell when people are passionate about their game. They have that vision and there's so much more that could go that would be fun. So many ideas I have. So I love that passion.
And at least this one's out in the wild now, because we've seen developers who are like,
it gets in that development hell.
yeah,
like
it's
can't
just not
really,
good
it
enough.
can't
It's not
release.
good enough. It's
Can't
not good
release.
enough. And then, now it's just never going to be good enough.
Well, and I kind of feel for you guys in one way. I don't know if this is even the case. This is just what I always, anytime I saw a massive mixed reality update, I was like, that's probably a development hit for Mythic Realms. It's like the mixed reality software has gone through so many changes. I mean, there's been so many improvements, the way rooms scan, the ability of them, the marking of the objects. How difficult was it every time there was that like headset level upgrade to mixed reality, like messing up what was going on in the build and needing to go in and fix things?
It's a moving target for sure. But we've gotten, I guess, in the 2.5 years of building it, better at kind of following that trajectory. We luckily have some insight to the roadmap that Meta has, so we can kind of plan accordingly. And their documentation is pretty good about like whenever there's a SDK update, they're like, these will get deprecated soon. Please change that. That was one of the things I think like the last 2 weeks after launch, or we set the launch build, like this is the build, and then we need to make sure we patch this because it's going to get deprecated by April. It was the hand tracking. We had to swap over to OpenXR, but yeah, it's definitely not things need to be fixed after the fact, but we kind of knew that going into the space. And then the way we kind of built stuff, it's sort of like there's the meta layer and then there's the layer that we have on top of it, which lets us kind of, even if things go or change completely from how we expect it to be, our layer still ensures that it should still function even if a really big system changes altogether, if that makes any sense. But it also lets us iterate quickly. So something that would normally take weeks would just take a day, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense to me. So you're not necessarily sitting back waiting for the changes. You have things in place that regardless of the changes, it still has enough time for you to. That makes sense.
Yeah, I can imagine that first time that you have something, functioning, and then there's a headset level update, and you go, nothing works anymore.
2 weeks later,
What's going on? I didn't change anything,
No, to have the foresight though, that's give a little contingency plan of the worst case scenario.
I think in like 3 years, 2-3 years, we're going to see a lot more experiences like Mythic Realms, and it's going to age even better in the sense of like, look at how ahead of the time these guys were with that experience of going back and forth, the RPG elements.
In the brain for 5 years?
Yeah. Selfishly, I love town builders. I love real-time strategy games, city builders. So when I hear you say like more things to do in the village and stuff like that, I instantly go, ooh, does that mean building and like that? I love that there's already thinking of what else could be in the game as well too. We kind of went right into Mythic Realms itself as well too, but do you want to take us a little bit into the history of Petricore itself? Like, is this your first VR experience? And I guess we'll start from the beginning. How did the studio even come to be?
Yeah, so we started back in 2015. So we'll be celebrating 10 years as a studio this May, which is kind of wild. But we met in college together, actually. So it was myself, Oliver, and 2 other people that are still with the company. James is our CTO, and Christina's our art director and project manager. And 2 other folks who aren't at the studio anymore, but we had all started Petricore together in college, and it was something where it was like a spring break, and I had messaged everyone being like, hey, let's would you want to try to start a company? And no one knew any better at the time, so they said yes. And so we met and we started talking about like what we wanted it to be, and we started doing mobile games originally, because that was what we all went to this school, Becker College, and a lot of us had done this internship together. That was this program called the Mass Digi game
Summer Innovation Program.
Summer Innovation Program. And so a lot of us had like also worked in that, and we'd done like mobile games as a part of that. And also just like in school. So that was what we knew. And so we went and our first game was this game, Mind the Arrow, that Oliver created, that was like a deceptively simple, like Simon Says-esque like matching game, but got very like complicated over time. And we launched that, and Apple featured it on the front page. We launched the same day Angry Birds 2 did, so we were like, uh-oh. But like it was odd, like Apple featured it. It was like right next to it on the front page of the store. They shared it on its social media. We got like Best of July, I think, when we launched with that game. So like that was a huge, like for us when we first started, like it made a good splash. And we did a few mobile games after that, and like mobile was just getting really tough, especially like for a small studio like ours. Like it wasn't, we were doing a lot of smaller, like hyper casual games. And so they would always get, like, all of our games fortunately got featured and had a good amount of people who played them, but they were always just like really tough to make money. Like free to play is really hard. when you're a small studio. Mobile was becoming harder. It was like a money game where it was like, how much money did you have to just like cash inject into the games? And we didn't. So we moved out of that and we did PC games. We did a game jam competition that we ended up being one of the winners, and we were going to launch a game on Google Stadia, which didn't happen, unfortunately, but it was like really cool to work with them on that. We did, or I'll before I mention kind of what got us into AR, we also did a lot of work with clients, and we kind of always have. And so that's how we funded the studio. It was our first ever kind of client project. Also happened the same time we started, which was with this vascular surgeon out of Harvard Medical School that I was introduced to through that same Mass Digi program through the school. And he wanted to build an app. And so we did that. Like we worked with him on the app. Some of us were on that project while we also worked on the game side by side. And then we just kind of slowly built up the like projects that we did on the work for hire side. So we've never really taken any outside investment from like investors or angels or like venture capital. Like we've just fully funded the studio through doing the work for hire and using that to help fund a lot of the games that we were building, at least early on. And then what got us into AR was actually originally the client work side. We did a lot of client work in that space. We did our second ever project was a Google Cardboard project that we did for like a trade show. So we've always been in XR. It was just never like our own stuff a lot. And so we were doing that. And then we got interested in like trying to find a space that we could build games for that we could like, we're really technical as a studio. So it was like, where can we bring our skills? But also it feels like a space that's new and we could have that chance of, like you mentioned, like being one of the first there. Like that was like, it's such a cool prospect to be like, you're one of the first that's starting to figure this thing out and can launch it. And like other people look at it and like are pulling ideas from, like, that's so cool. So that was like what drew us to augmented reality. And so we ended up doing this game with Snapchat that was called Lens Detective. And we would like map out your room as like a crime scene that you were investigating, all in a Snap lens. Which how small did it have to be?
It's not the size of it. It was limited to 8 megabytes in memory. So we had to get really creative with putting a full game within a Snapchat filter, if that makes any sense.
That like mapped out your room and placed content. It was like we were doing stuff that like was already like hard to do on Quest, like in a Snap filter. And so it was pretty like ahead of its time. But that was kind of like what got us, like that was what started the like Mythic, like, because that was like we were limited in what we could do. So that was where we were like, one of the things in that we had is because it was a phone, you couldn't do the hand tracking. You couldn't like reach out and touch the augmented objects. You could only touch, like your phone was the interface by which you would interact with that. And a lot of players that we showed it to were like, they wanted to reach out and touch the stuff, but the technology just couldn't support it. And that was part of the like, we should do headset based stuff, was like people want to more naturally interact with all these like objects. And that was where we were like, okay, if we could like, if it's on your face and you can like track the hands and you have controllers, like we could do a lot more cool stuff. So that was where like for us, we saw mobile AR going more towards the headsets, it was more natural way to interact with all that stuff. And that was what got us excited about, Mythic Realms and pitching that to Meta and getting it to what it's become now. But yeah, that's pretty much our abridged history.
I kind of get now why you went something new and challenging, and this doesn't seem like a studio that wants an easy project. Even if you could have chosen obviously could have picked an easier game to work on than being like, let's innovate something no one's done. But I get it. It's making a lot more sense now.
There's something really cool about that story of like met in college, we were college friends,
Started a business,
and X amount of years later, it's still a thing. And not for nothing, I think that experience in the mobile market with free-to-play games is going to prove invaluable in the next year or two, because, free-to-play is like the current talking point in the VR industry.
or XR industry. And I think a lot of developers are going to get like, it's going to appeal to them, whether or not that's the correct path to go for their game, just because it's kind of like the hot topic. Whereas you guys have already seen like the potential negatives of it, of like, hey, this might just lead to an endless cash dump of who
I
can.
mean, there's negatives to free to play.
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe for some titles it is the correct one, but you know, I can see the writing on the wall. I think a lot of the industry is going to get falsely lured into putting out free to play models when it's not the best for their product. Whereas you've already seen like that might not be the best. So I think that it's just another advantage you're going to have in this in the next year or two is you've already kind of seen the way the industry flow goes with the App Store. And a game like Mythic Realms, that's a premium title to me. Like it's worth the money. A game like that to be free to play would be tragic. And yeah, augmented experiences are so much better through the headset when you can touch it. You know, Pokemon Go and stuff, they're fun apps, but you look at a game that's coming out like Stay Forever Home, where you're going to be able to pet your pet in the actual house. Like, that's the future. That's what people want. They want to be able to, you know, give the scratches and stuff like that. Like you said, through the phone is cool to see the concept of it, but it's in your hands.
Give the scratches.
Come on, with some hand tracking, that's as good as it gets.
Fur on the ground too, and we could go. It feels real.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets. So
For sensory.
uh,
No, I something else that's key, and it's I know developers listen, and it's like this is a studio that I feel is like making all the right moves, but it took working with clients and doing stuff outside of the project you mainly might want to do.
not just people handing you money that are going to eventually want that money back. Plus a little more.
Depending on the investors, yeah, usually that's the whole idea. We're getting some sort of ROI on this.
Yes, usually investments are not donations.
Yeah, like ask nobody for nothing, but diversify the company in a manner that will allow you to stay technologically proficient, but still work on a project that certainly no one was going to steal, because who would have ever wanted to have like started to bring this on in a black and white day.
So going back to when you first started the company too, just a bunch of friends, how do you even decide, you know, who takes what roles? How do you decide, all right, Oliver, you're best as lead designer, Ryan, you got the business sense, you'll be the CEO, he'll be the CTO, you know, how do you decide where everyone's best fit when starting a company with just friends like that?
We already kind of like, I was the one who called everyone to say like, let's start. And it was pretty like, okay, I knew who was best at what, and like the dream team of like who I really wanted to work with. Like that was what was also helped, was like, we kind of had worked together before in school, but the way that we worked together in school was on these like pseudo professional projects. Like that was what Mass Digi did, was like, they treated it like you were a game studio. So like we had already worked together, like Christina, art director, was also in the summer program. I had done worked on a game called Cat Tsunami, where you were a cat surfing on waves made out of cats, and that was the concept. And Christina became the art director for that. And so we worked together, where I was producer and Christina was art director, while we were in school, which was like a kind of a weird, like you don't really get that experience. And so we hadn't worked in like a big studio together, but we'd like sort of pseudo professionally work together while in school. And that helped in terms of like, we already knew what roles we were good at and we worked well together with going in. But it's evolved over time too, as like, yeah, like you said, many hats too. Like Christina does a lot of project management now, which originally she didn't start out doing. And it was kind of one of these like, you're really good at this and we need someone to help with this, so please help us. And so, yeah, it's something where I think that helped a lot, that we'd had that like opportunity to like work together while in school in those roles.
That is a really cool schooling system.
Yeah.
I
almost like technology Vogue.
Well, like you think of it, so many businesses fail in that first year. Of course, you're not dealing with like the finances in that training, that what is often what causes the businesses to fail, but you're at least getting the feel of working with each other, the corporate structure. You know, a lot of schooling prepares you for like the skills needed for the role, but not how to do the job, if that makes sense. Whereas like in a very sink or swim industry, like the gaming industry, they're already preparing you guys to be producers, to be designers, to be artists, the art director. It's like, that's a really cool schooling system. So then you guys leave. It's like you said, it's already kind of feel like you're in a company together. You already have the initial hiccups and learning stages out of.
Definitely gives you a better head start.
Dude,
that's having to apply to a company blind.
Yeah, that's
being like, so this is how this all really works.
That's really cool.
That's yeah.
Yeah, instead of just teaching you the software, the program, here's how you make a 3D model. Like, no, here's how you do a business
of a company, not necessarily just a student. That's gonna have. No, I like that.
Here's how a game studio runs. That's good schooling right there.
It was a great, like, they sort of still run it, but most of the people who ran it have since moved on. But for years, they ran this Mass Digi Summer Innovation Program. And I think like the like alumni base of like people who went through that are like within so many big studios now. Like it was a really, really great program. And like, yeah, we didn't go through that. I don't think we would have been set up to like be successful.
So their success rate of people actually getting legit good jobs in the industry is probably huge.
Yeah.
Compared to, again, just going to a school, learning the technology. And
yeah,
I love also if employers know, I'm seeing a bigger picture. If I own a big major studio,
you see that on the resume.
I know that college specifically has this program in place,
and doesn't anymore. So it's like those years of people that were coming through it.
There's your cubicle, and they already were comfortable with even like using the kitchen in some of these studios. It'd be a little awkward, Some of them are pretty big.
And do you all still keep in touch with other people from that program as well too? Is there like a networking group of everyone?
Yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome.
It's called Monthly Success Magazine.
We have a Illuminati. We sacrifice a goat once a year together.
As long as it keeps the doors open.
That's what the drop is. It's a drop for a goat,
No.
So
I like the Lumen Industries logo, Ryan.
It's the tiers. That's funny. Tiers of the competition. So on release day, did you have everyone in studio? Was it festive in here? I always want to know like what the vibe is on an official release day for a game. Is it more just
nail biting, or is it
status quo? Just
the diddle day?
I mean, we were, I guess, watching the articles flow in, and the amount of people that were going to play it. And I think Ryan also got us a bunch of gifts as a release. Like we got a little like plaque for like Mythic Realms release team.
That's awesome.
Which is cool. Yeah. And we had a cake. Yeah, no goats.
It wasn't that time of year yet.
Yeah.
No,
not yet.
No, I've heard both the studios take more of a very laid back approach of like, we got our people ready on the computers for the worst. And I like more the atmosphere of like sharing the articles, people like, hey, we got another one. This person's saying good things, and reviews are starting to come in.
I also think with Mythic Realms, it's like, because it's so unique. It's like if you're a new shooter or a new rhythm game, you only have X amount of months in the spotlight before another one comes in and takes that spot. If you're a shooter and like Forefront's coming, I know you're hyped for Forefront.
I might be.
If you come out a month before Forefront, the second Forefront comes out, your space in the news cycle is gone.
Yeah, well, especially if it's something where people are tunnel visioning, waiting for.
Correct.
Like I'll appease my time until it comes.
But there's not really another Mythic Realms. So it's a little evergreen in that like, I don't think it's going to just have that launch. And you see that like everyone talks about it, all these players, and then pew, like you see with a lot of other games.
Well, now with new content coming. And
obviously I can't see your guys' back end or anything, but I imagine that's going to be a game that, gets that initial, launch. And then like, I could see it staying steady with players and new players coming in because people get a headset. They look for these type of mixed reality experiences.
Which means it could end up on the most played.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a game that's drowning with other games in its genre. So I don't see it having that same, like I said, initial launch and then die out like we see with other games in the Quest store. So congrats to you all for doing it. I mean, like I said, it was good a year ago, but it is fully fleshed out. It is a full experience.
The minute creators started talking,
and like
I was like, they made a lot of changes.
I've seen some people try to say about hours in the game, but like for me, it's like it's a roguelite. So you have each stage that advances the main story when you beat, But it's like, even me, I won't lie, I did jank up my play session a little bit to be able to beat that dragon. I realized that there was a spot I could hide with my long ass axe. I could hit it, and like I hid in a corner like a scaredy cat. So I'm not going right to that next stage. Like, I have to level up my dude. I have to get better. So it's like, I mean, I guess if I rushed through this and found ways to like cheat through every battle and like
everything,
maybe it would be quicker. But like, to me, this is a experience that can take me a long time to level up my guy how I want to be, have all the equipment I want to be, because I'm like the same thing you were saying of like that OP run. Like, I want my dude as good as he can be. So, I mean, like, how long would you say the game is? To me, I would say it's endless hours of gameplay, because you can always keep going back in and doing more runs. But for people who like that number on it, is there a time that you guys have established it's like about this for playthrough?
I think if you're pretty proficient and you kind of beeline towards the end, you can probably beat it in about 5 to 7 hours. But the nice bit is the way we designed it, there's 3 classes, right? You only pick the one, and I can tell you picked the warrior class to start.
Yeah.
So that was why the stages are made the way that they are, because as you beat each one as a melee class, you still aren't leveling up your range or your mage. So if you wanted to start becoming a mage late into the game, it kind of doesn't really bode well for you, because you're doing 2 damage to something that has like 300 health. So it's better that you kind of go back, go through the first biome as that new class, if that makes any sense. And then there's also like the 9 weapon types, and you can mix and match. So even though you're probably really proficient already as a melee class, you still have to unlock new things when you get the range. Sorry, there's going to be a range master and a magic master, and then they'll give you weapons, and then you'll be able to have more stuff to play with and reasons to go back.
Yeah, see, I can't imagine myself blowing through this in 7 hours. Just knowing the way I play games, like, I need to get proficient at all my classes. I need to unlock everything in the village, like, and then even, I mean, I haven't beaten the game yet, but if you're saying like training grounds or like more like late stage end game content, sounds like if you beat all the stages, you can still go in the same save, or like when you beat the last stage, is it completely done?
You can redo the final boss if you want, or you can redo any of the biomes.
See, to me, it's like, it's not, there's endless hours with it, to put 7 hours.
I appreciate when you finish a game and it doesn't technically end, and it does just what you said. It's like, okay, we'll stop it at the point where you can fight someone and technically end the game, where you can go do other stuff and not be forced to end it.
I asked because I saw some reviews and it said like, 7-ish hours, if you go through it. And I was playing it and I was like, dog, I'm like an hour and a half in, and I'm just sitting here fishing, like, I don't see how I would beat this in 7 hours. Like, if you gave me a timer and said like, you don't finish this game in 7 hours, your headset explodes, I'm effed. Like,
but what's cool though is like, I mean, 7 hours is a decent time. We always use like the relationship of like, what's a night to go to the movie for a 2-hour experience typically costs more than the majority of VR games.
The $14.99, $19.99.
My
whatever
first
that
thing is am I getting entertainment value that would correlate to like not being upset that I spent money on a movie that's over in an hour and a half, 2 hours? So 7 hours is, over 3 times that amount.
Like I said, that's a skeptical 7 hours for me. Like, I know myself, I'm spending 20 hours.
Well, that's
plus
what
on
I'm
this,
saying.
like,
Depending on your play style, if you want to like, hey man, I just want to fish, like I'll get to the other shit. It could be limitless hours.
Yeah, and it's like you see the resources.
And you're not being forced, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're being force fed to like, no, you have to go right now.
I guess I could see if you beelined it, but to me, like, you're missing so much of the experience in a game like this. It's in depth. It sounds like it's only going to get more in depth, more features. So, I mean, this is one I take my time with. I had fun. Like I said, I'm biased. We're out of state, so I won't even lie in the lead up.
No, whenever Petricore comes up, we talk. Like, yeah, that's right in our backyard.
Yeah, it was weird. It was biased. Like, I've never had this feeling in like the lead up to a release where it was like, man, I'm almost a little not nervous, but like I want to see how they do. And then I saw the release was good, and I was like, man, I feel a little proud, a little positive, and like in a way that I have no connection to it. It's just
no.
We
visited a year ago, and somehow allowed that to I was with you. It's like you want I even had, and again, all I did was ever play it, right? Play it and hear about it, but had a little bit of nerves of like, oh, I hope it does well. I hope it's received well. And not knowing at the time what all the changes were from the last time I played it. So even my play was jaded. So no, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's an experience. It's unique.
It makes me wonder though. I'll ask the question and you can say pound salt, but I know you're going to focus on this experience, but are you all already sitting there going, here's
What's
the next and next to the next?
We are.
Okay.
But I think like we want to continue to support both. Like I think one is like while we were working on this, have like Oliver's been working on a concept for the next thing that we're gonna do. But also like Mythic, like it's out and it's a really good opportunity to just experiment with like the game being live and like people are in it and try out some of the things that we want to see how they impact the game. And it's just a general net like learning for future stuff anyway. So yeah, we definitely are not done with Mythic Realms. Like Oliver meant, like we have a lot of stuff we want to do, and we like Oliver very, very smartly like designed and built the game in a way where it's like there's a million things we could do. Like I won't even like we went back and we're looking a little at the original like Miro board we made for this game where like we maybe did like 15% of what we like pie in the sky sort of if we had unlimited time and money could have done. And so I think like that's the beauty of the game is like, yeah, we could do a lot more. And so we're excited, like we're excited for like when we do some of the first sales for it and start to see like, all right, like does that bring a lot of people in who maybe were a little like, I don't know about this mixed reality stuff, but like, oh, it's on sale, I'll give it a shot. And same thing, be like, wow, all right, this was different than what I thought it would be. So we're definitely like we're excited about it now being out and being able to like add stuff and play with how we set up different things. We've already done, a quick kind of first week patch for it just to fix some of the stuff that we were saying. So it's already like we have another one on the way. So
yeah, for people with 2 floors.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you have a top floor and a bottom floor and you have both rooms mapped out, it might sometimes think the top floor is the room that you want to be in, and I missed that. Whoops.
Well, my home environment does that sometimes even too, because I'll have my upstairs mapped and my downstairs.
Some maps, because I'll be looking at you 20 feet here. I'll be like, I can tell you just went upstairs.
Sometimes I open up my menu when I'm in my home environment and I'll see it in my room upstairs. Yeah. So it even happens in the Meta's home screen, in fairness to you guys, so don't feel too bad about missing it if, like I said, it happens in their home area as well. No, great work. And I mean, it's not even my game, and even I go like, yeah, there's so much possibility you could do. I'm not saying that this is even possible, but like
give us the craziest ideas.
Yeah, like things like co-op or multiplayer, or like going to like an isometric view and building a town like that. I'm like, there's so much potential with that foundation that's in there in Mythic Realms right now. But even as it is currently, like, phenomenal game. Like, hats off to you all. You did something unique. Cutting edge technology that's ever changing with mixed reality and room scanning and, like you said, multiple room spaces, taking into account all of that. It's impressive. You all pulled it off. And like, what is not just like a little tech demo, like, look at the potential of mixed reality. It's a full-fledged, RPG roguelite. It's great stuff. So glad we could come in and join you two and talk in studio.
I can't wait till we start seeing copycats.
Oh, like I said, in 2 years, you're going to look back and go, Mythic Realms was ahead of the time.
And I'll bet
it's going to be its own genre now.
I'll bet you anything there's been some developers who have some light bulb moments when they go,
from mixed reality to VR like that.
I don't know why I didn't think to be doing that, other than the fact, well, nobody did, and I don't maybe want to be the first to prove, but
it's like you do your VR town building.
No, it can,
but your mixed reality games, roguelite expedition, it's like, there's something there. There's definitely something there.
Yeah, it's a cool part. Like Starship Home came out a few months before ours did, and we know folks on the team there, and
from Creature, great studio as well too.
Yeah, And like they were also like just like super early into mixed reality in a game of that size, and just like did some really cool stuff. And so we were even like, you know, as soon as it came out, we were like, write that down. Like, all right, look, they did this, they did that. So if like someone is looking at the game in the same way, that's really cool, because like that was that, you know, for us it was like we were looking at like, okay, how'd they do that? And that's really smart that they did it that way. So yeah, no, if we start to see people inspired by some, that's pretty cool. Like not quite the same, but I remember when we launched our first game, Mind the Arrow, within like 4 days, we had a clone that someone had made. I forget what it was called.
Match the dots, the pop glow. I forget. It was
Yeah,
some
it was
weird knockoff name, and I was just like, "Oh, that's great." It was terrible.
It was like,
I played it, and I'm just like, "Oh, they tried, but they made this in a week."
it was this weird, like someone like it was like this weird moment of like we had to reach out to Apple to be like, please take this down. They've like cloned our game, but also like, wow, someone liked our game enough to clone our.
Within 4 days. That's pretty good.
I don't think someone can pump out Mythic Realms in a week, but yeah, no, it's cool to see that.
No, hats off to you both. You can hear the passions there. You heard it a year ago when we visited. You know, we saw a little bit more of the members. We're here on a Sunday, so it's just you two here. We don't get the whole office working, but we saw the passion from the team a year ago there. You can hear it talking with both of you guys, the passion there.
Stopped at all.
Sounds like there's 1,000 ideas you guys have in terms of things that you could do with Mythic Realms and other games. I can tell Oliver, your little gold mine of ideas there too. So,
Too many ideas, only one hour.
right? Too many ideas, only so many hours, and the tech's only where it's at, right? But I'm pretty confident the future is going to be good for you guys in terms of what's coming out. I'm excited to see updates to Mythic Realms, but also maybe what else is brewing in there in the future. So this is cool. It's awesome that you guys are right in our backyard in Worcester, Mass as well too. So shout out to Massachusetts there. But to anyone who hasn't yet, awesome mixed reality experience, Mythic Realms, out there now on the MetaQuest store. Doing good with ratings for good reason. I'll give it my seal of approval, not just because they're out of Worcester either. It's legitimately a fun game. And yeah, I mean, before we wrap it up, anything else you want to say or ask Oliver and Ryan while we're at it?
I'm happy y'all invited us to come in studio. It's actually really good I love visiting studios and seeing where the magic happens. This is when we came to a year ago with Skiva, so to come back is even cooler.
This time we came with 1,000 wires and, whole
Just
huge
lit
setup.
up the place with a little bit of mess, but
Nice, clean, smells nice studio. We come in here with our equipment, set it all up, 1,000 wires, on a Sunday.
no, that's the other part. I'm very grateful that you both would take time out on a Sunday when we know you're burning.
Game
all
just
week
came
long.
out the other week. We're already
There's not a dozen other things you could do in office on a Sunday.
Game came out, and then we flew to San Francisco for GPC that week. So it's been
nonstop.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hopefully we see you guys at PAX, some other conventions throughout the year. And, hopefully this isn't the last time we're talking about Petricore in 2025. So again, to the listeners, if you haven't yet, go check out Mythic Realms. If you enjoy it, drop them a store rating. You can do the same for us as well. Rate us
Doesn't
5
hurt.
stars,
It's free.
subscribe, and we will check you out later.